We are complex. We have an ego, we have a self, and we have these complex minds that we barely understand. I mean, it's pretty amazing how we can shift to a different state if we're triggered. And there's a reason for that. Our psyche, it's like the voice inside of your head is one way of thinking about it. It's that thing that chimes up inside. I mean, the word psychological comes from the psyche. So there's an ego and then there's a self, and your ego's job is to protect you, is to keep you safe. It chimes in and tells you it's going to go bad, it's going to go wrong. Then your true self, it's what encompasses, it's the whole of you, and it's actually going to have a primary emotion of love, and it's going to want to reach out and want to help. So people that I've worked with in coaching, and myself included, and my friends and everybody has a part of themselves that's an ego, right? And in this context today, we're going to talk about it as a protector. It's protecting you from getting hurt again. We're going to break that down on the show today. So I'm going to give you 3 ways you can actually get out of your ego, get out of the protector, calm the voice there, and actually act out of yourself. And so as leaders, we want to act from this confident place, from a place of ourself, not out of ego. Ego protects us. It keeps people at a distance. It's fearful. The protector, i.e. the ego, I'm going to call it the protector from now on. I mean, its primary motto is never again. Never again. I'm not going to get hurt like that again. I'm not going to get betrayed like that again. I'm not going to get taken advantage of that like that again. I'm going to orient my life in a way where I'm never going to get hurt again. And then it costs you dearly. So we're going to talk about this protector and how it's running your life today. In fact, in many ways, it's probably ruining parts of your life and you don't know it. You're going to get 3 decisions you can make to actually start getting distance from the protector, to recognize it and not let it actually damage your life any longer. And I'm going to talk to you, like I always do, in simple concepts that are easily applied and that you can teach to somebody else quickly, and they're going to be able to understand them as well. So welcome to the Decide Your Legacy podcast. I'm your host, Adam Gragg. I'm a coach and a family therapist, and I founded Decide Your Legacy in 2012. And what we do is we help leaders and their teams address the issues they're avoiding so they can take productive action and make progress. From my point of view, everyone is a leader. And from my point of view, everybody has a protective part of themselves that is impacting their leadership, impacting their connection with other people, keeping them closed and fearful. And we can change that today to have more hope, to have more peace of mind, to live in a way where we can actually build relationships, build connections with other people. So when 2 egos are interacting, there's competition, there's one-upping. People are looking with judgment on the other person. I'm not good enough, or I'm better than them. They should appreciate me, or I'm entitled to something. And this mentality we know is the protector. And so what I'm talking about today comes out of internal family systems, which is a therapeutic modality to help people who have dealt with trauma, because the protector is formed during traumatic events in our lives when we've been hurt. So that really makes sense, because it is a part of our psyche that says, I'm not going to let that happen again. And so I'm going to do whatever I can to not get hurt again. And then it becomes dysfunctional because it starts to read situations as being dangerous that it needs to protect you from, because it reminds that part of your psyche reminds you of what hurt you in the past. So you're automatically triggered, and we're not even actually aware of it when it actually happens. We're usually not even aware when our protector is coming out, because it's deceptive. It can come out as insecurity. It can come out as anger. It can come out as deceptive communication. It can come out as passive-aggressive behavior. It can come out as passive behavior. It can come out as violence, inflicting harm on somebody else. It can come out and justifying it and rationalizing it, because we don't want to get hurt again, so we're going to inflict violence on somebody else. The protective part of ourselves is drawn to drama. It's drawn to drama because in drama, it can stay safe and it feels needed. So if I feel needed and I'm utilized, then I feel okay with myself. I feel like I'm doing my job, and so it is drawn. And you can see this in people's lives. People who live with a lot of self-protection, they tend to be, and they would classify it as victims of drama, but I would say they enter drama. They invite fights with people, and I can do that myself. I mean, recently I invited a fight because my protector, and I'm going to share personal illustrations today, so you're not going to want to miss this today because I'm going to share some stuff that how the protective part of me has derailed my life even just in the last week. So my daughter Emerson graduated from high school last year, and I felt some disappointment that my mom and dad and some of my family didn't come. So she had some an aunt and uncle that came and an aunt and uncle that didn't come. And I felt disappointed by that because it was hard. I was really wanting to celebrate that. And I feel like to me, it's one of those things, you just make it work. You kind of like schedule around it. You know, this is going to happen. You've probably known for 10 years that she's going to graduate, like you've known it for a long time, and, figure it out because it's really important to somebody else, like their wedding. I mean, wedding is super important too, but I mean, you have less time to plan. You do have time to plan for graduation. So I was disappointed my mom and dad didn't come, and I hadn't vented that. I hadn't really expressed it. I didn't want to make them feel guilty, but actually I really did, is what I've realized. So my mom and I were talking on the way home from work, and she asked me what I was doing. And I said, well, I'm buying tickets to go out to Bella's graduation. Bella's my niece in New Orleans. And if I was more self-aware in the moment, I knew that was going to trigger my mom. And you can say, well, you didn't say anything bad. You didn't say anything rude. You just told her what you really literally were doing. I wasn't lying about that, but I knew through wisdom that was going to trigger my mom. And I should have stayed away from it because I really, truly knew that I was inviting a fight when I shared that. And a few days later, it didn't turn out well. It turned out really bad, actually, because it triggered my mom's protector. And when you have two protectors interacting with each other, it doesn't really go well. Same thing as two egos. And so she was operating out of a place that wasn't great. I was operating out of a place that wasn't great. And it just derailed. And I knew after I had processed it really for probably 24 hours, I knew I had done wrong. In my heart, I knew that it was the wrong thing to even bring it up, and I didn't have to even share it. She could have asked me, what are you doing? And I could have said, well, I'm going home to make dinner and relax and go running, which I was as well. But I wanted to dig the knife in because that was my protector saying, dig the knife into your mom so she doesn't hurt you again, so you're not hurt again. And then 3 days later, I apologized to my mom. She had done some things as a reaction to my protector that were very hurtful, but I had to own the fact that I started the fight and I initiated the fight, and it happened because of my listening to my own fear, and I need to take responsibility for that. And I did, and she thanked me, and I told her I was coming out to visit for Easter, which I am, and it actually ended up being a good interaction, which another point is apology is one of the biggest and best ways to build relationships. I mean, if you legitimately own and apologize, people start trusting you. It's one of the hardest things to do in a relationship too. Why? That's another podcast episode. So the 3 decisions you can make to start, because the protector is running your life and you don't know it, 3 decisions you can make to start knowing it and to start really not letting it have the power in your life, because you're giving the power away to your self-protection, and it's hurting you greatly. So first decision is to become aware. And by becoming aware, you're going to have a feeling in your body when that self-defense is rising up inside of you. Some people feel it in their chest. Some people feel it in their shoulders. Some people feel it in their mouth. Some people feel it in their feet. And there's an amazing way that we can step back from our own lives and analyze what we're thinking and analyze what we're feeling and be able to draw light to it so that it no longer has that kind of power over us. And I feel, and I know, in fact, that is often for me the first thing that I can recognize, because I get tense in my heart. I feel it in my heart when I'm being self-protective. I'm not relaxed. I'm tense. I'm not open. And my mind and my thinking is all going towards self-protection. How can I not get hurt? And how can I interact in a way where it's going to keep people in a way where I can try to control them? And it's not positive. And so if you feel it in your, wherever you feel it, that's a great place to start. And then you can say, hey, that's my protector. That's your signal. My protector is showing up. Even something small like bringing up a easy topic like, where do we go to dinner? Where do you want to go to dinner? I mean, there's little things that can remind us of our past that trigger our protector. And when I feel it in myself, that's when I get controlling. And that's when I get even passive aggressive. That's when I get passive, because it's in that moment that I'm starting to act in a way that is not my true self. Now, your true self is the creative aspects of your life. It's your unique giftings and talents. It's utilizing, like in the parable of the talents in Matthew, I believe. I'm not sure how many gospels, but anyway, you're probably familiar with it. Well, people are given, and it's a metaphor for more than just money. It's a metaphor for the giftings that God's given you to help to resources, what you can utilize. So if you're treasuring your talents, then of course you're going to use them for the benefit of others. And if you're self-protective, you're going to hide them. Like there were 3 people in that parable. One of them invested he was given 5 talents. He invested them and he made 5 more. One of them had 3 talents. He invested them. He took a risk with them. He risked losing them, honestly, and then he gained 3 more. And then one hit it in the ground where it couldn't be lost, where it couldn't be taken. And then the master came who gave him the money and called the one who invested, the one who had dug a hole and put the 1 talent in the hole. What? I mean, he said, you're a wicked and lazy servant. You're lazy, And he gave that 1 talent after it was dug up to the guy that had 10. Pretty amazing. And there's so much depth to that right there. And the protector is keeping us from using our talents. And that's why I'm saying it's robbing us. Now, how does it actually form? Well, one great question to actually ask clients or friends or whatever is like, what's your earliest memory? Because a lot of people have earliest memories around age 4 or 5. And sometimes when they've had significant trauma as a child, been exposed to significant trauma, they can have earlier memories that are actually very clear. I've had clients in 27 years as a therapist share stories from age 3 and even from age 2 in some situations. Now, there's real evidence that you have age 5 to 7 those are very formative times in a child's life, that they start interpreting the world through how the world is functioning at age 5 to 7, that parts of their psyche, including the protector, is formed at that point. But it can also have very strong roots in other traumatic events in your life. So for me, I can think of my protector getting very, very strong, much stronger than it had been in years and years at age 41. And I had significant trauma happen at age 41. So that was when I realized that my marriage was falling apart. So it's fascinating because even at times I've thought, okay. So it's almost like that part of me is still 41 years old. That protector is still functioning like it was functioning when I was 41 to help me survive a traumatic situation. So it's still helping me. Now, there's just strong roots to PTSD, man, strong roots to how we function based on the traumatic situations we've had. And then it is, again, causing you damage when you don't recognize it in the moment, because other people do recognize it often. They will. And your close friends, your monkeys, they'll see you're functioning in a self-protective fashion and help you to see potentially that it's just something you can step back from and just recognize. So that's my first challenge to clients as they're starting to try and recognize how self-protection is impacting their life, impacting their leadership, impacting how they interact with those they supervise and their clients, how they're acting in a guarded way, and they start to just notice it, and then they can respond differently. Because if you're in a professional interaction and somebody is accusatory or they're saying, hey, you didn't fulfill your contract and I want to default or whatever or hey, you're not following through, and they're trying to blame you. And if your protector chimes in, then you're going to interact in a way that is actually in the drama. You're stepping into the drama rather than being distant from it, observing it, getting clarity, being calm, asking calm questions, engaging and building a relationship. And people that live from their protector, often they're highly triggering. I mean, they can be highly accusatory because that, again, if they're acting in that way, living from a point of self-protection is safer than them having honest, open conversations with people. It's safer because those honest, open relationships that they had in their past, some of them have betrayed them and hurt them deeply. And so it reminds them, if I let my guard down, that you're going to get hurt again. So again, the motto of the protector is never again. And the motto of the true self is love. Is how can I love? How can I live? How can I live life? How can I love? How can I reach out? It's all the same thing. I mean, how can I have adventure in my life? That's its motto. It looks for that. So, and it goes and engages in things that are going to help it unleash itself. And it's all healthy. I mean, the self is not selfish. It's not the same thing. I mean, all the true self stuff does is healthy. And that's why really people who have done things that they really regret, that are in prison or are in really tough situations, they still do have a self. It's like they're two different people. There are times their self comes out. And I see, like, there's times when somebody that might be a murderer and is in prison and interacting in a very loving, compassionate way towards other people, not a self-protective, and take advantage, narcissistic fashion. They're actually reaching out to people. I mean, there's kindness in prison. I've never lived there, but I mean, I know that I've heard stories. I mean, you've heard stories too, people that impact other people in that setting, in whatever setting it's actually in. There's kindness in the front lines of war. I mean, there's kindness that can happen in the most desperate situations where people help others because they're getting outside of the selfishness, outside of their own ego, and they're actually reaching out to other people. So if you found this podcast helpful so far, and I got 2 more decisions you can make to recognize the protector and to get out of it, is you can hit the link to subscribe to Shatterproof Yourself Light. And these are 7 small steps to build your confidence. I walk you through stuff, and it's content I've developed over the last 20 years. It has a worksheet and a video, and you can go through it quickly. It's about 40 minutes long or so, and you're going to find it really helpful. You got to complete the worksheet as you go, and it's going to give you space from the protector as well, and along with helping you build healthy relationships and recognize how to build a high level of build yourself, the self concept, to really build that up. It's going to help you to see how to clarify a vision for your future in a really powerful manner as well. So you want to hit the link and check out Shatterproof Yourself Light. So the second decision to put your protector at bay is to talk kindly to it. Now, this sounds really strange because talk to myself? Well, yeah, I mean, this is a big deal. And how do we do that? Well, journaling can be talking to yourself. You're writing thoughts to yourself that are contradictory or in opposition of thoughts that you're having. You're telling yourself the truth. And you can talk kindly by thanking that protector that formed in your life to keep you safe. Never again, I'm never going to get hurt again. And be kind to it, saying, thank you. You served a role in the past. But it's just not functioning well now with you leading the ship. So I don't want your help in this situation, protector. I can handle this. And you're kind to that part of yourself. It'll amaze you, because the reason it'll amaze you is because it'll respond as you tell it the truth. Your psyche responds to things when you tell it the truth, and when you let it know that you're going to lead, that yourself is going to lead, because it wants to be led. It doesn't want to have to lead. It's like an employee that has a boss that's not willing to make decisions. Well, the employee feels really insecure, and it feels like it has to protect himself or herself. They have to protect themselves because the boss isn't looking out for the company and looking out for the financial future of the company. And the boss isn't moving the business towards a vision, and the boss isn't making the hard decision. So it's going to have to start doing it for itself. And eventually it'll probably be looking for a new job, because that employee knows that I can't be in a business long-term that doesn't have somebody leading. I can't do it. So we need leaders, and we have to lead ourselves to be that kind of leader for our protector. So you talk kindly. Instead of fighting it, you want to acknowledge it. and say, okay, I hear you. So for me, I mean, romance can trigger my protector, and I can be really negative at times and make up stuff because instead of getting hurt, I will just demonize somebody. I'll make them out to be bad or out to get me. And I don't feel like I'm doing that as much. I feel like I'm seeing a lot clearer in that area. And it's pretty exciting, actually, because, I went through a really difficult divorce, but then I've had other people who weren't trustworthy, who I let my guard down with, and luckily didn't get too deep in it, but because that's the whole thing is like you can have this strong protector and you can even choose at times to totally not listen to it when it's trying to help protect you in situations that are dangerous, but you're not willing to see it. So it's a little bit confusing. But what I would say in those situations where, in one in particular, where I did let my guard down after the divorce and got hurt some, I mean, let my guard down and then realized it wasn't a trustworthy situation where I should have had trust, is I wasn't listening to myself, because myself was telling me, be careful. Myself was telling me some things don't add up. Myself was telling me, this person's not recognizing your strengths and wanting to utilize them. They're interested in themselves. So myself was getting drawn into their protector, who I was interacting with, and I wasn't being myself. So yeah, it sounds confusing, but you start talking to your protector, thanking it. It's not broken. It's just overdoing it. It's just overdoing it based on the trauma in the past. And when I journal this out, I step into leadership instead of reaction. I step into gratitude for what the protector has done, because it did get me through a very tough situation and many situations in my life. It just doesn't need to do that now. Pretty powerful and exciting. And by the way, just a little side note is that we call some of this psychologically disassociation. So multiple personality disorder is a term that was used a long time ago. It's not utilized as much because in psychological settings, we just don't give credence to that outside of just a disassociative tendency. So people can disassociate so much from a part of their life that they may act in a way that's so different than how they normally act. And an example would be that a person with a really large protector, they may act in situations where they're triggered, they may act very different than when they're around one of their friends who they have a lot of trust in. And so they act out of their self in that setting. They open up, they're calm, and their friend, as they describe this other situation where they're acting in a self-protective fashion, doesn't see the same person interacting with them. It's very incongruent. And so we have multiple parts to our psyche, including multiple protectors. You can have a protector in maybe business settings because you've been hurt and burned in business settings, but maybe not so much around your wife because you have a lot of history and trust with your wife, or a protector that rises up with your parents because you've been hurt in that relationship, but not so much with some of your friends because you've learned to calm your central nervous system in those relationships. So pretty powerful stuff. So the third decision, though, and this is the one that I get most excited about, is you can start, in order to calm the protector, you can start showing up as your true self. And your true self loves people. Your true self wants to be open and wants to trust, because it takes trust in order to love people. Your true self does things that you've been avoiding because it loves. It's willing to do things like sacrifice, like be inconvenienced. It's willing to, and even excited about, showing up for its friends. And it's even excited about showing up for itself and getting those workouts in and having those hard conversations and doing the journaling and doing the reading and doing whatever it takes to unleash itself, because it's worth it. I'll say to myself sometimes, like, I show up not to prove my value, but because I already know it. That's what the self actually does. That's what it means to show up. I show up and I lead, not to prove I'm worthy, not to prove that I can perform, not to prove that I am likable, not to prove that I am smart. I show up because I want to add value, and I know I do. I know I do. I know I have value, and I can bring that to the situation. So it takes action to show up as your true self. It takes having the conversation. It takes engaging the risky endeavor. It takes not playing it safe. It takes having the cold shower. Just kidding about that one. But maybe it does take that because you're showing up for yourself, and that does calm your central nervous system down. And this is where gratitude comes in, because you're, by willful action, choosing to have gratitude is choosing to focus your attention on the good in your life and what can happen that's good in the future. And it is a willful action. It is a powerful action. And gratitude reminds you that you have so much and that you can be a steward of the many blessings that you have been given and all these talents that are uniquely yours, regardless of the mistakes that you've made. God's grace continues to give you opportunity and continues to give you talents to utilize. You can step up and show up for yourself. And when you show up for yourself, I mean, you are showing up for other people, because you're showing up by being your true self. And this comes out in really creative ways. When somebody, and in IFS, what we call this sometimes, one way I like to understand it is you have these parts of your psyche that are called exiles. And an exile is a part of you that does good and that is impactful, but it's been exiled on a desert island because the protector won't let it come out. Those exiles threaten the protector. So loving other people can be an exile. This part of you, this part of your psyche that's creative can be exiled. This part of your psyche that is really has a great sense of humor has been exiled and it doesn't come out. And you letting it out might shock people around you because they're not used to seeing that part. They're used to seeing the protector. They're not used to seeing your exiles. So by showing up for yourself, you're engaging these exiled parts of yourself. So you may have a passion for reading Shakespeare and memorizing poetry, yet you've exiled it because you've lived out of the self-protection function of your psyche. Or maybe you have a desire to draw and you've done it before and you really have a great passion for it, or music, or animals. Maybe you've exiled the dog lover part of yourself because you had a dog that died and you love that dog so much, your protector says, no, never again, never again. And so even looking at pictures of dogs can trigger you. Looking and being in a house with people that have dogs can potentially trigger you because it triggers your protector. But that's when you can speak kindly to your protector and say, like, hey, it was really hard to lose Max. I lost my dog. He was 16 in June, almost a year ago. And it was really hard to lose Max. Max and those memories are never going away. This is me talking to my protector. And you have a lot of love to give. And at the right time, buying a dog could be an awesome, awesome thing for you. That's the protector, which is super cool. You're talking to your protector. That's not your protector talking. That's yourself talking to your protector. And then maybe over time, you start opening up to having another dog, which could be super fun because dogs are cool. And I love dogs and I miss Max. But, and I feel like I'm open to getting a new dog. But I do feel like, too, though, I'll say things and it can't be my protector. Like, it's so hard to travel with a dog. And I had some friends find a dog, stray dog, and thought it would be a great fit. And I told them just not yet. I didn't say never again. I said just not yet, not yet. So do that drill. You start to incorporate something in your life that is exiled, is pushed away. That's a part of your true self, and you start to engage in it. Maybe it's learning a musical instrument. I know for me, I have felt like I've exiled certain fun parts of myself, my sense of humor at times. And I won't even necessarily show that when I'm around other people that have really strong protective functions. But I don't really hold back like I used to. I know I'm working on the protector chiming in romantic relationships and just letting my true self come out, like just being myself, having fun and letting go, which is really exciting. So there's amazing stuff that can happen as you talk to your protective function, and you build your legacy by connecting to your true self. In these moments where the protector chimes in, you say kindly, hey, I'm okay. I can handle this. I can the protector doesn't want change, you can speak kindly and say, change is good in this situation. This is really good. This is really good. And you start thinking about how gratitude in your life, and you start focusing on gratitude, knowing how much it can help you stop living in fear and start living from your true self, because it will. So today, you're going to feel your protector show up. And you may even feel it right now because it's triggered listening to this podcast. When it does, I want you to pause. I want you just to notice how you're feeling. And according to Michael Singer, who wrote The Untethered Soul, and Richard Schwartz wrote the book, which I'll reference both of these books that I'm talking about. Richard Schwartz wrote No Bad Parts, which is, he's the creator of internal family systems. Took him like 3 decades to create it. He wrote No Bad Parts, book on recovering from trauma and living a full life. And then Michael Singer wrote The Untethered Soul. And Michael Singer has this thing where you notice that self-protective part of you raise up, and when you're there and it's raising up, like you're in your car and you just notice how you feel and you notice it's chiming in. Well, just remember, you're sitting on a planet moving thousands of miles through our solar system, and like a speck of dust, in this giant solar system, and it's in control. And so many things are just perfect because we're the perfect distance from the sun to sustain human life. We have perfection all around us, and it puts things in perspective when you recognize that. And the protector will calm down because you're just being aware that it's chiming in. So you notice it, you talk kindly to it, and then you show up for yourself. You notice it, you talk kindly, you show up for yourself. So, and even ask yourself, if I wasn't trying to protect myself right now, how would I show up? That can give you some insight as well. So in closing, I want to share one last situation. I've been planning my graduation with my daughter, and not my graduation, going to my niece's graduation with Emerson. And Emerson gets out of school, and she's trying to arrange her schedule so that she can go to the graduation out there with me from Wichita, but she's driving back. And I'd like for her to come back and make sure she can go. And she had said she could go, and she was going to fly from Boston. And now she's going to drive back to Wichita from Boston and have to fly from here. And she doesn't think the graduation party is on Saturday, and she's not going to get back in town until Saturday or Sunday. And so I responded to her, and my protector was chiming in and was kind of like, hey, we got to go to the graduation. You got to come home, figure out what you're going to do to go home. And then I stepped back from it, and I felt like I was operating out of my true self. And I just said, Emerson, whatever works for you. If we can go on Sunday, we could, potentially even go on Monday. I didn't say that in the text. I just said, whatever works for you. We can just go to the graduation ceremony. That'll be really special to be there. And then we can stay a few days afterwards and hang out in New Orleans. It'd be great. But I didn't listen to my protector, and I feel like the conversation's going much better. Because when you listen to your protector and you act on it, there's no limit to how far down you can go out of fear. Protective behavior, it triggers protective behavior in other people. I didn't trigger it in Emerson in that interaction. So I'm happy about that because I didn't listen to it. And I needed my friends to help me with that. And I did it without my friends telling me what to do. I didn't even actually process that with friends until after I had actually made the decision to just let go. But I did think of what a friend of mine says, Ben. He says, be flexible like water, whatever that means. Like, be like water, don't be rigid. So what insight have you gained today? And what action are you as leaders going to commit to taking? Because this way of functioning impacts your leadership. Self-protection impacts your leadership, and people see it in you. So decide to apply something today. Whatever you commit to and you actually do has the biggest impact. So 20% of change is by taking new actions. 80% of change is by taking a new action, doing something different. What are you going to apply today? 20% of making changes is insight. You gained insight today, but it means really very little unless you take some action. And that action, I challenge you, if you don't do anything, is just start noticing that protective part of you. And another action is to subscribe and leave a rating and review for the Decide Your Legacy podcast. That helps it grow organically. And share it with a friend. Like, share this specific episode with a friend. If you've listened to this and gotten to this point, there's something in here that resonated with you, and just share it with somebody. Like, hey, this was helpful. I really think you could benefit from this. Don't Don't dig it in, but like, hey, this was insightful. So to decide means, by definition, that you're eliminating other options and you're choosing one path. Your legacy is the impact that your life has on others. There's no positive change until you decide to change. Decide today, because your legacy does depend on it. I'm going to close today the way I always do. Live your life today the way you want to be remembered 10 years after you're gone. You decide your legacy, nobody else. I appreciate you greatly, and I'll see you next time.